Welcome to the BlackburnNews.com candidate profile interviews for the riding of London North Centre. We are joined today by Peter Fragiskatos, who is the Liberal candidate in London North Centre, and we have 5 questions for Peter today. And Peter, that first question is about childcare. Your party's childcare plan has been criticized a little bit in some quarters as being not a lot different than what the Conservatives are offering, apart from the size of the monthly check. How is it different, and how would it help parents who are struggling to pay for childcare?
Well, actually, it's extremely different from Mr. Harper's childcare policy. Under the universal childcare benefit that Mr. Harper has introduced and is currently in place, what parents are getting is taxable. So much of what is given is clawed back come tax time. We want to make sure that the benefit is tax-free and linked to income. So it would be geared towards the families who actually need it. In other words, middle-class families and those working hard to join the middle class. Right now, that check is going to everyone, including millionaires. Simply because someone has kids does not mean that they should be getting a check each month. Millionaires are getting those checks right now, and we're committed to making sure that it's middle-class families and those working hard to join the middle class who are getting those checks.
What about childcare spaces? What in the Liberal plan addresses what many say is a pretty severe shortage of childcare spaces?
Sure. Well, if you look at our infrastructure policy, one of the key planks is that we would build childcare facilities. So if you take that into account, combined with the fact that we want a more fair child benefit policy, the child benefit policy itself would provide the average family of 4 in Canada, making $90,000 a year. It would provide them with, much more robust kind of a check that would actually help their needs. $2,500 more, in fact, is what they would make under our plan. So, in combination with the building of childcare facilities, this is the kind of plan that can actually help middle-class Canadians and those working hard to join the middle class.
London's unemployment rate has certainly fallen since the depths of the recession. We got to double digits there for a while. Now we're down to in the 6.5 range. There are a lot of people in this community, though, still struggling to find work, and it seems as though relying on the manufacturing sector, as we have in the past, just really isn't a very good option anymore. How would a Liberal government get people in this area working?
Sure. Our policy is to be ambitious, is to have some ambition for the country and for the city. We have placed too much focus on the oil and gas sector in this country, and we've seen, because of the cyclical nature of oil and gas, that when the price drops, our economy also drops. Manufacturing is also another instance where, in the past we've focused excessively on it, thinking that it's always going to be there, and when there's downturns, well, there's also downturns in our economy. Because it was based around manufacturing. What we're saying is that we have to diversify. Oil and gas matter. Manufacturing, if Toyota wants to come set up shop here, if any car plant or any large firm wants to come set up shop and employ thousands of people, that's great. But we also have to look at other alternatives. Investing in infrastructure will generate growth throughout the country, and that will be felt in London as well. And we have to make sure that we support research and innovation. The University of Western Ontario is in this riding. We've seen what happens when you support research and innovation. Germany, for example, has weathered the economic storm much better than Canada has. The economic storm of 2008, I should be specific. And a large part of that is that they've invested in research and innovation. There's been huge spin-off effects from those investments that have led to the development of businesses. Germany is a startup a base for startups, and we should look at that model. We should, here in London, become a startup capital, in North America, and I look forward to making that happen or working towards that in the coming years.
You mentioned the oil and gas sector. I want to kind of ask you about that, because one of the issues that continues to grow and get bigger in this country is the environment. We're all very concerned about it, obviously. We Canadians want to breathe clean air, we want to drink clean water, but we've been criticized around the world because of the oil sands. But when you think about it, unless we're willing to stop driving our cars, heating our homes, and using transport trucks to get products from point A to point B, Oil and gas extraction isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So the question is, how would a Liberal government reconcile the desire for a clean environment with the need for the product that the oil and gas sector produces?
Well, the economy and the environment go together. You can't have a strong economy without a strong environment. And what we're saying is that, precisely as you've pointed to, we cannot simply move past oil and gas. That's here. It's an important part of the economy, but we have to make sure that we carry out those kinds of economic policies in a fairer way. Let's consult with First Nations communities around pipelines, for example. Let's make sure that we're working with the international community to reduce emissions. Let's make sure that we're working with the provinces who are taking action on this. In British Columbia, we've seen the government there act. We've seen the government here in Ontario take action. In Quebec, Saskatchewan's making important strides in this regard. And we have to help the provinces along with this, and not impose another level of bureaucracy onto them that would only complicate the system. And this is what Justin Trudeau is committed to: a fairer policy, one that is always seeking to consult, and also working with the provinces in the Federation to make sure that we have a balanced environmental policy.
Canadians have become pretty cynical, it seems, about politics and about politicians. We have seen people get fed up with things like broken promises, floor crossing, robocalls, and majority governments of both stripes, both Liberal and Conservative in the past, majority governments that have been won with less than 40% of the popular vote. How do we address that cynicism? How do we get more people in this country engaged in the political process, and more importantly, getting them out to the ballot box on election day?
Sure. We can start by listening to them. All too often, politicians get elected, and then you hear from them every 4 years. I want to be the kind of person who's reaching out, who's sitting around the table with concerned citizens who want to voice their concerns on any issue. That's the kind of approach that we need in this country right now, and we're not hearing it. We're not seeing it. We have a government in place in Ottawa that has forgotten what it means to actually go out and engage. We're seeing Conservative candidates routinely skipping debates across the country. This is not the kind of approach that Canadians expect, and frankly, they don't deserve this. They want to make sure that their politicians are out there listening to them and sharing with them the vision that they have for the country. So it begins by actually respecting citizens, and as long as we continue to do that, we'll be just fine.
How much of the cynicism do you think has to do with what happens at a local level? I mean, we saw your leader, Justin Trudeau, promise open nomination processes across the board. That promise has not always been kept. There have been ridings where hand-picked candidates have been chosen by the party leadership. Is that something that's going to have a lasting effect, do you think, or is that one of those things that maybe the average Canadian thinks, oh well, that happens in politics? How much is that a factor, do you think?
Well, I can tell you from my experience, I went through an open nomination process, and it was free and fair. Anyone could have joined. This is something that Mr. Trudeau committed to, and I lived it. I experienced it. For me, the process was, it was a great journey. The nomination itself is always a fun experience, and an opportunity to go out there and speak to folks. But I really, I look at the example that we've set now in terms of our platform. It's a platform that's based on consultation, but that consultation for myself in this community started when I was a nomination candidate, reaching out to community leaders, listening to them, and I was allowed to do that, without restriction, without any restriction at all.
Last question, and some might argue that this issue could very well be the biggest one that we face in the future. Stats Canada reported this week that for the first time in this country's history, there are more people over the age of 65 than there are people under the age of 15. we can only imagine what kind of impact this is going to have on the healthcare system in the coming years.
That's right.
How are we going to find the money to pay for the care that an aging population is going to require when there will be fewer people footing the bill?
Well, healthcare and the economy are interlinked. I mentioned the link that exists between the environment and the economy before. This is another example. Unless we have an ambition for the country that says, let's grow the economy, let's not sit back, then healthcare will suffer. Mr. Harper has reduced the health transfer. And as we see the senior element in our population aging, and that's going to continue, as you say, we have to be very worried about the kind of policies that are being pursued right now. We have to make sure that we grow the economy, generate the revenues that are needed to help the provinces with healthcare costs, and particularly long-term care, which is obviously so important to seniors.
Peter, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Best of luck in the campaign.
Thank you so much.